And now we've just officially unmuted you, so you can actually answer. Can you all hear us okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, thank you all for joining us. We'll give just another moment for people to hop on, but one technical note, if you can mute yourself during the call, other than when you want to ask a question or make a comment, that would be very helpful just to minimize background noise. And be sure you are either using the sound through your computer or through your phone. We find there's a lot of feedback when folks use the sound on both mechanisms. So just a quick note on that. And I think with that, we'll dive in. So hi, everyone. Welcome to our informational webinar with Social Venture Partners. My name is Kristine Maggio. I'm the ED here at SVP. And I'm really thrilled that we've had such a wonderful response to this Accelerator program, and we're really excited to tell you a little bit more about us and a little more about our program today, and give lots of time for you all to ask questions. Please feel free to jump in with questions all throughout. We've also left some time for it at the end, but please don't hesitate to ask questions as we go. And just want to note again, if you all can please mute yourselves. I'm hearing a bit of background noise. I know for those of you on the line, it can just be hard to hear if there's background noise from other participants. So again, thank you all so much for being here, and I will hand it over to Sharon Stratton, our program manager.
Great. Thank you so much, Kristine, and thanks everyone for joining us. So on the agenda for today's webinar, I will start off by providing a brief overview of SVP-LA, followed by a more detailed synopsis on the Accelerator program and the application process. And we will close out with some space at the end to answer any questions that we might have from you all today. A quick note that this webinar will be available online after it finishes today. So if you want to go back over it, or if you were uncertain about anything, it will be uploaded and you'll all be sent details after today. Great. So I want to start off by giving a little bit of background on Social Venture Partners LA, especially for those of you who are maybe hearing about us for the first time. SVP LA was established in 2004. We are part of a global network of 3,200 partners worldwide. Our international network is called SVP International. You can find us in 40 cities and 9 countries. Here in LA, our flagship program that some of you may know us for is called Social Innovation Fast Pitch. It's an intensive 2-month program where we have nonprofit leaders participate in a program of coaching and training over 8 weeks, finally presenting their pitch before a panel of judges and a live audience on stage, with the winners receiving funding for their organizations. Our mission is to catalyze significant long-term social change in Los Angeles by connecting nonprofits and the powerful work they do in their communities and linking them to skilled volunteers who provide their time, resources, expertise, and funding to collaboratively strengthen the organization and their impact. Collaboration is really at the heart of our approach. We believe that every single individual in our network has something to both learn and to share, and that together we can accomplish so much more. So to date in LA, SVP has given over $714,000 in direct grants to Los Angeles County nonprofits. Our skilled volunteers, who make up our partner base, have contributed more than $1.9 million in volunteer time for their skilled professions. And our partners themselves have also donated more than $1.8 million to nonprofits directly. So now that I've given some background into SVPLA and how we got here today, I'd love to hand over to Kristine Maggio again to share some background on the Accelerator program and go into detail on the program itself.
Great. Thank you. So as you all may have read online, the heart of this program, as the name implies, is our hope to really accelerate the growth and impact of emerging nonprofits in the systems change space. So several of us here on the SVPLA team are new to SVP. So over the last, I would say almost a year now, we've been really looking at what is the next chapter for this organization. As Sharon mentioned, social innovation fast pitch has really been central to this organization's work. And as we spoke with our community stakeholders about how we could expand our work and our impact, we kept hearing feedback that having a more in-depth program that would offer the fast pitch skills, but that would also go beyond that, would be beneficial to the nonprofits we work with and really valuable to the pro bono consultants that we work with as well. Some of the key offerings of the Accelerator program as we've crafted it: each organization will receive $10,000 in seed funding. Your organizations will have wraparound support. So we're structuring this. We'll go into more depth about this. But each organization will have a team of coaches and mentors, as well as peer learning from the other organizations participating. And each organization will also have the opportunity to participate in our Fast Pitch program, which for a set of those organizations will mean that they have the opportunity to present their 3-minute pitch on stage in front of 500 to 600 community members who come out for that event. Great. So just a bit about how the program is structured. And the caveat I'll give at the beginning of this is that we really want to work collaboratively with the cohort to set the specific course of each of these phases, which is why you'll see in the application there are some questions about what you're most interested in getting out of a program like this. That's to really help us. This is our inaugural year of this program, so that's to really help us shape what the program looks like and tailor it to the organizations that we work with. So as you'll see, the program is split into 3 phases. Each phase is about 3 months long for a total of a 9-month program. So phase 1 is focused on design and infrastructure. So this is everything from your organizational infrastructure to how you shape and structure the programs and the initiatives that you employ in the community. We've heard a lot of interest in applying human-centered design, particularly with an equity lens. We've also heard interest in some of the core operational functions and how staff teams are structured and designed. So again, this portion is probably the most flexible at this point, that will be very much designed in partnership with the cohort, but most likely we'll have key concepts around human-centered design, equity, and operations baked into this phase 1. Phase 2 of the program is our traditional fast pitch program. So for this portion of the program, each organizational leader will have 2 coaches that works with them over a 2.5-month period to hone a 3-minute pitch. And this is a program that we've been doing for the last 9 years and culminates in an event, as we mentioned earlier, a 500 to 600 person event in March of 2018. So this is really an opportunity to hone your messaging to articulate the heart of what you do in an inspiring and impactful way in hopes of raising more money, bringing in new volunteers, and really generating excitement about your organization. And finally, phase 3 will be all about network and capital building. So the feedback we've heard in the past from organizations that have participated in Fast Pitch, they often feel like our big event is just the beginning of their journey. So we've crafted this phase to really ask the question of, now that now that you've strengthened your organizational infrastructure, you've really sharpened your ability to talk about your work in an inspiring way and to pitch it. Now, how can we be partners to you in building your network and building capital for your organization? So based on the goals of your work, you might tell us that you most need to connect to local elected officials or local foundation leaders or corporations. Our partners, our pro bono volunteers and coaches have incredible networks that they are very eager to open up to each of you. So that's what this phase will be all about. We'll also talk about how do you turn your pitch into grant proposals and really strengthen your ability to use that messaging to go out and grow your capital as well. So that's the third phase, and this again, you will have specific coaches and mentors that'll work with you throughout this phase as well. All right, so I think now I'll hand it back to Sharon for eligibility.
Great. So I'm going to run through the eligibility criteria, and this may be where questions crop up in the Q&A, so have your pens ready and feel free to ask them at the end. Firstly, organizations that will be accepted into the Accelerator program must be a 501c3 nonprofit. Upon acceptance in the program, any successful applicants will be required to show their proof of fiscal sponsorship or their 501c3 status. LA-based organizations are preferred. However, the caveat is that if your organization is not, say, physically based in LA, but you believe that your program or initiative has significant impact on the LA County, we would still love for you to apply and to tell us why you think it has significant impact on the LA County. Your organization must, or initiative or program, must have a systems change focus. This is a really important concept to us in this Accelerator pilot, and Kristine is going to go into more detail around what exactly we mean by systems change shortly. You should be an early stage endeavor. Ideally, we're looking for organizations that have demonstrated some kind of proof of concept. So you may have already completed some kind of testing or be in testing mode. And ideally, we'd like to be looking at organizations that have some kind of prototype. The organization representative who participates in the Accelerator should be an individual with a senior level position with significant decision-making responsibility. So we're looking for someone in the organization who has a demonstrated commitment to the issue and can demonstrate that they'll be with the issue and organization for a long period of time. The kinds of titles that we would be looking for that might demonstrate that to us would be a chief executive officer, a development director possibly, or an executive director. For SVPLA Fast Pitch alumni, only semi-finalists are eligible, which means if you have participated in Fast Pitch in the past and you were one of the 10 to get up on stage, you are not eligible to apply, but if you were part of the 10 that didn't get up on stage to present, you may apply.
And one note on that applies to your organization as a whole, so not just to you individually if you are applying as the organizational representative, but if your organization has presented from the stage, you would be ineligible to apply this year for the Accelerator. Great. So I'm going to hand back over to Kristine, who's going to go through what exactly we mean when we say systems change. Yeah, so this has been the biggest question that we've gotten both as we're crafting this and as we step into the launch of it. So we wanted to spend some time here. So, you know, what I'll say, I found that one thing that's helpful in talking about change. Oh gosh. I think someone just joined who might be listening on their computer and their phone. Better. Okay, great. So if any of you are familiar with the parable of the river, I often find that's a helpful illustration around systems change. So we talk about there's a whole continuum of services and supports. When we have goals or visions for what our community looks like, there are many points at which we can intervene. And as an organization, we value each of those points of intervention equally. We believe all of it is so important, everything from crisis intervention to direct services to capacity building to support, all the way upstream to advocacy, systems change. For this specific accelerator, we will be focusing on, as the parable references, going upstream. So how do we continue to ask the question of why is this occurring, and how can we get to the root of the problem? So you'll see a couple quotes here that we think highlight the heart of systems change in really getting to transformational community change. So looking at what is the environment that creates this problem, and how do we get to the root of that? So that's really at the heart of this. So as we define systems change, it's really about work that tackles the root cause of pressing social problems. So we do make a distinction between systems change and direct service. So systems change programs are those that address the underlying inequitable structures that exist at every level, and seek to shift policies, processes, resources, and power structures. And we do have an eye toward equity. So we will be, the most competitive applicants will be those that demonstrate that equity is at the heart of the initiative that they're working on. This is a great visual from our partners at the Equity Design Collaborative that demonstrates the different layers of systems change work. So as and you'll see this in our application as well, so the layers of both oppression and liberation that exist, everything from the internalized and interpersonal oppressions, one layer out, looking at the institutional biases that can happen, and how those get baked into institutional practices. The next layer out, you see systemic there. And finally, at the most macro, ideological. So basically, systems change.
Call from wireless caller.
I'm going to ask whoever has a phone ringing in the background to please mute.
Wireless caller.
Great, thank you. So the organizations, I think, that would be in the sweet spot for this accelerator would be those that are looking at institutional and systemic liberation, that would be looking at how do we create change at the institutional and systemic levels. Great. So some of the questions you might ask yourself, if your organization is working directly with beneficiaries to alleviate an immediate need, that program is not the best fit for this accelerator program. So those proposals would not be competitive in this process. It's such critical work and not what our focus is. And conversely, if you or your organization is seeking to change attitudes, behaviors, and policies on a particular issue, that is a better fit for this particular program. So, if you're not sure, we definitely don't want you to go through the whole proposal process only to realize that you are not a fit in this aspect. So please do ask questions on this webinar when we open up for questions, or feel free to contact us and we can help talk this through with you. But that's really the heart of it. So, some people talk about asking the question of why, that often systems change gets several layers deep into that question of why a certain problem or issue is happening within a community. But we hope this has shed some light on what systems change means to us. With that, I'll hand it back to Sharon. Great. So keeping in mind what Kristine has shared with us about how a systems change focus is really at the core of this pilot accelerator program, what we really want to see is that applicants have a demonstrated deep understanding of the social problem that they're trying to address. So rather than articulating a really clear solution, what we want to see is that you understand intimately the issue and that your initiative seeks to address the root cause of this issue. Secondly, we'll be looking at how innovative the approach is. We want to see that the innovation seeks to address the systemic issues that will lead to more significant long-term results in a way that existing or conventional models or programs currently don't do. Finally, we're looking for the applicant's openness to learning and sharing. We'd like to see leaders or applicants applying for the program that really demonstrate a thoughtful approach to their work, a proximity to the challenge that they're trying to address, and a willingness to learn and grow their leadership and organizational impact. So these are going to be the key guiding criteria that the selection committee will be looking at applications through the lens of. In terms of the time commitment, the Accelerator is a 9-month program. So we kick off in October of this year, and it runs right through until June 2018. Participants will be required to attend 2 half-day in-person workshops per month for the entire duration of the 9 months, plus be expected to commit around 4 hours each week outside of those workshops on accelerator-related work. One just quick clarification on that. We expect for the weeks where there is a workshop, we expect that to be the 4 hours. On the weeks where there's not a workshop, we anticipate there's 4 hours of out-of-workshop work. So it's a total of 4 hours, and this is a rough estimate, but we're estimating 4 hours a week for the full 9 months.
Thanks.
Great.
So I'll go through the application process. So the most important deadline, I guess, to keep in mind is the application due date, which is Wednesday, September the 6th at 5 p.m. All applications must be submitted online via our website. This will be put up on the last slide as we conclude the webinar. We will notify all applicants via email once we've received your application, and successful applicants will be notified by Friday, September the 29th, 2017. For those who are given a place on the program, proof of tax-exempt status or fiscal sponsorship, so a demonstration of that 501c3 status, must be submitted to SVPLA by Friday, October the 6th. I'm providing here just a screen snapshot of the application form itself. You can find this up on our website, and we've tried to make it as not onerous as possible. If at any point you have any troubles entering information or completing your application, please feel really free to call or email us. Great. So we'll now move into question and answer time. So if there are any of our participants that have questions, please feel free to speak up.
We'll check the chat as well. I think a few questions came through on our chat. Okay, so maybe I'll sort of read through some of the questions that are coming through on the chat box and give some people time to mull over. So the first question is, will a copy of this webinar be available after today?
Yes, it will. It will go up on our website, and I will send an email to all our webinar participants with a link to this. The second question I'm seeing is the program only available to one staff member from applying organisations, or can 2 staff members participate? We're thinking that 2 staff members might be better for sustainability's sake.
So on this one, we will ask one primary representative from the organization to apply to the program, but particularly in phases 1 and 3, and possibly in the fast pitch phase as well, we will have opportunities for at least 2 to 3 members of each organization to participate in the workshops. So we would encourage you, as you think about who is the best organizational representative, we encourage you to think about both the availability of time blended with the seniority and seniority of the person and ability to make decisions within the organization.
Great. A third question is, the application asks us to describe a project of the organisation. So is the program project specific, or could we describe our organisation's work in its entirety?
So this is a good question, and I think specifically for smaller organizations, the two may be one and the same. So we'll leave that to your discretion. We do want you to be able to workshop one particular goal. So that could be the entire goal of your organization. For some organizations, they might have 2 or 3 initiatives within their organization, in which case we would encourage you to choose one of them that's in a stage that could benefit from a program like this. But for smaller organizations, if you have a singular focus and program, then absolutely we understand your mission and program focus are one and the same.
Our next question, for applicants or participants, are you looking to have a diverse set of issue areas? Is diversity of issues important for SVP?
I would say yes. It's not the only criteria we're looking at, but we would really love, and what we heard from some of the nonprofits that helped us shape this program, we heard from them as well that it would be helpful to learn from peers who are outside of their issue area. So we are looking for a diversity of issues, but that doesn't mean that we might not have 2 organizations working on the same issue within the cohort.
I had a quick question. This is Norma with Californians for Justice. For the particular issues areas, you may have shared in the beginning, but could you give an example of, like, you said workshopping one particular goal of some other goals that have been, workshopped in the past?
Sure. So what I'll say, this is our first year doing this program. So we don't have kind of historic examples, but I can say from some of the organizations that have come through our Fast Pitch program who would potentially be eligible for this as well. There was one organization that was working on a policy change at the state level around access to information for community college students. So that's one. In that case, it was one very specific campaign that they were working on that was time limited. For others, it was building a coalition of organizations that are working on bail reform together. And again, there's probably a pretty specific time horizon. Another is working on advocacy at the city level to remove barriers for homeless people who are moving off the streets and into permanent housing, looking at some of the administrative barriers in local government systems. So those are some of the specific projects. So it could be, you could articulate in the example of the education policy, it could be as micro as we want to get this policy passed in the next year, or as macro as we have an initiative that looks at educational justice for community college students broadly, and that's one component of it. So you could frame it either way. Does that help answer the question?
Yeah, thank you. That's super helpful for the examples. Thanks.
Great. Great. We have another question that's come through the chat box. When would the seed grant be distributed? How soon would SVP LA like to see that grant put to work? And would SVP like to see it put towards events, internal operations and development, a new program, etc.? Is there a time frame attached to when that seed grant must be used?
Great. Really good question, and I realize we didn't mention this. We definitely recognize that $10,000 is a small grant. So the grant will be unrestricted. You will not need to submit a budget or demonstrate to us how it's spent. If it needs to be used to pay the light bill or put on an event, whatever it's needed for is where you should use it, and we won't, we don't ask any questions about that. We will likely distribute $5,000 at the beginning of the program and $5,000 at the end of the program. And if organizations leave the program halfway through, they would not be eligible for the second payment. Great, so I think that's all of our chat questions. Other questions on the line?
Are there any restrictions? I belong to the religious organization, the Archdiocese of Los Angeles, and we just recently opened up a cafe which employs youth probationers, and so we have a social justice mission part of our cafe, and that's what we're all about. We want to help provide jobs and training and support to our youth who are incarcerated. So any restrictions on any faith-based organizations? We don't use any of the money for religious instruction or to proselytize, but all the funds go to the youth. They're paid. They're helping them out, and we're non-denominational equal opportunity employer. We employ everybody regardless of their faith tradition.
Great. I think you just mentioned the caveats that I would have mentioned. So the organizations that would be using funds for proselytizing would not be eligible, and organizations that discriminate based on faith or any of the categories, I think we mentioned them on the application, would not be eligible. One note, and I'd be happy to talk to you offline, I'm not sure what you're describing is a systems change initiative. It sounds like a wonderful initiative, but it does sound to me more like it would fit in the direct service category because you're talking about individuals participating in a program where they're receiving training and their lives individually are being touched versus more systemic work. So, but I don't want to say that blanket statement without knowing more about your program.
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Great. Do we have any more questions from participants on the line? Great. Okay. In that case, I think we'll wrap up our question and answer time there. But if you didn't get a chance to ask your question either in the chat box or on the phone, again, please email or call us anytime. We're very available. I just wanted to do a reminder for the key upcoming deadlines. So applications are due on Wednesday, September the 6th at 5 p.m. Please try to submit them early, and successful applicants will be contacted by Friday the 29th of September 2017. In the meantime, you can contact us by sending an email to accelerator@svpla.org, or you can apply straight away at the website by going to svpla.org/workwithus/accelerator. So thank you all so much for joining, and we really look forward to receiving your applications. And again, contact us anytime with any questions or concerns.
Great. Thank you all.